easy. So we did aircraft type. Let's go through flight mode setup. Flight mode. I use switch D, which is right here, the standard flap switch. I do this so that I can have independent trims on my primary flight controls in any flap position. Just one little trick I use. So that's about all we got to do on that page. So select switch D, hit back to get back. Flight mode name setup. Pretty easy here. You got 1 through 3, and you can change the name. Flight mode 1, flight mode 2, flight mode 3. So here, if you're real clever, you'd enter in this position, normal, takeoff, and landing. How clever. I'll let you do that yourself. Maybe I'll do it before I post the program online, but I just generally leave it flight mode 1, 2, 3. Hit back to get back. Okay, here's the channel assign menu. I'll probably say something wrong in this part, so whatever I post will work, but I may describe it technically a little wrong and probably get a few hate mails from the Horizon bunch. But let's start the way I understand it. RX port assignments. This is what the port of the receiver is being told to operate. So throttle channel will operate the throttle. Number 2, aileron will be the right aileron. Elevator will be the right elevator. Rudder will be the right rudder. The gear slot will hook up to the left flap. Aux 1 will be the left aileron. Aux 2 will be the right flap. Aux 3 will be the left rudder. Aux 4 will be the left elevator. And Aux 5 will control Aux 5. Pretty easy. So let's go to next and see what's available there. So channel input configuration. This tells what switch, lever, movement of a stick is going to command the given slot. So the only one available right now, because we're using 10 channels, is Aux 5, and right now it is on the right lever, this one right here. So because we've got a King Cat here with a servo going on everything, its own slot, each servo will go in its own slot. I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. Aux 5, I'm going to want my nose gear steering assigned to this port. So what I do is I like to have my steering trim on this left trim. It's called a left trim analog when you use it for nose wheel steering. So we're going to find R or LTRA. So that's that allows for just single step trimming inputs. So we'll command that and get out of this. So that covered putting our steering servo onto this, and later on we will mix it to the rudder stick. I'll show you that. So let's move out of here. Get back. Next is trim setup. So like I said before, we assigned flight modes to the flap switch. I like, when especially I'm test flying an airplane, to have independent trims. So in different flight modes, the trim type will be common for the throttle because that doesn't need to change. And because I keep the trim here, I leave it on digital. I move the trim step up to 10 so that it moves as fast as what's possible. Some guys like to change this digital to the left lever, and they put their turbine trim control right here. So throttle down, this lever back would be emergency off, this would be the ready, and then they would start by moving the throttle up and then back down. You can do it however you wish. I think it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, so I'm going to leave it on the digital common right here. So next is trying to get that glare out. The aileron, you can adjust this down to 1 step all the way up to 10 steps. Keep it at 5 for your first flights until you get used to everything. There I just switched common to flight mode, and I'll do that for the elevator and rudder. I'm going to leave the left trimmer and right trimmer alone, and trims normal and crossed. I don't know the reason why you'd want this. I guess back in the day in pattern, guys like to have their trims crossed, which would mean this trim would really be over here, and this trim would be over here, and these two. Can get you in trouble if you're not used to it. Keep it on normal if you're used to your aileron trim being underneath the aileron stick and your rudder trim being underneath the rudder stick. I just wanted to show you what that was so there's no more questions. So this is how I set up my trims, so that way my flight mode switch gives me a new set of trims for each position. So again, if I had a flap that wasn't deploying far enough and it was causing a severe or a small roll, a minute roll, I could correct that. Eventually I would take this elevator one, put it back to common, and put any adjustment necessary in the flap system like we used to do on the 12X. Let's get out of there. Model copy. Here we go. We're going to copy King Cat 15 to 16 simply by hitting copy. Data will be overwritten. Cancel or copy. We're going to do it. Copy. So now we just copied a program. Pretty cool. Model reset. Obviously, data will be reset if you select reset. We won't do that. Cancel. Warnings. This is where you set the initial startup warnings. You can have tone, vibrate, so we'll leave on tone. This will beep if your throttle's over 10%. You can adjust that. You can select whether your gear switch, flight mode switch, certain channels are doing things. I generally don't use too much of that. It's kind of annoying. I guess if you're flying a helicopter or something, you may want to turn on with throttle hold, or up to you. You decide. Telemetry. This is where you select what you're going to monitor if you hook up a TM1000. What's kind of cool is you can read all this stuff on the screen. JetCat, for example. So I've got version 1.02, which allows me to monitor JetCat telemetry stuff. So we're going to put it up on the display back. We can get to that more later. There's other settings and file settings in here. I'm going to cover that in the next on the telemetry video. Pre-flight setup, you can have a checklist. You can say canopy attached, check the battery, fill the tank, test the controls, things you would do like on a full scale. So far, and you can rename them too. That's cool. I'm gonna inhibit that. I don't see a need to do that at the moment. So let's get out of here. Frame rate. This is something that you need to set up as you get going. It will automatically select whether it's a 22 milliseconds or 11 milliseconds. Pretty much all our jet stuff is 22 milliseconds. As you can see, there's a warning. You got to use digital servos if you use 11, and I believe you cannot use X+, so then you're limited to a 10-channel radio if you do use 11 milliseconds. But jets are slow enough responding that they don't really benefit from 11 millisecond refresh rate. Helicopters, on the other hand, are that's where they benefit. So most people are using DSM-X. We'll leave it there, but you can select DSM-2. So because we're doing a King Cat with so many channels, we need to activate X+. So that's going to give us up to 8 more channels. If you're using a JR or Spectrum 12-channel receiver, you activate X+, and then you can use X+1 and X+2, in the receiver port aux6 and aux7. So it turns the DX18 from a standard 10 channel 2048 per channel into a 12 channel 2048 if you use the ports on the receiver. If you use X+1 and X+2 on the expander, the frame rate goes down.